I'm Paul Bloch. I'm from the maintenance department at Thunderbird Aviation, and I do these seminars just to kind of, I don't know, keep guys thinking about their maintenance and different things on their aircraft. And this one we're kind of getting back into. I don't know about you guys, but this winter I haven't been flying much, and so the airplane just kind of was sitting around, flew maybe a couple of times, and that was about it. So with the weather getting nicer and warmer, I think it's time that we start to look, because get some of this stuff done before it gets really nice, because then we don't want to be working on it, we want to be flying it. So first thing I wanted to really talk about is, depending on your storage, what you've been doing, how much you've been flying, I always like, and we'll start looking at this, we'll just do a quick, I'll start working on a quick oil change on this, because you know what, sometimes the oil's just been sitting there collecting moisture. Even if you don't have that many hours on it, if you had some on there, you know, with the leaded fuels and all the stuff we have, that oil picks up the corrosiveness from the fuel, and it just sits there. And even though you don't have that much time, it still picked up some of that stuff. So you have to kind of think about, you know, how cheap is oil? You know, this Victory is, you know, well, right now it's less than $7 a quart. Who knows with the state of the world? But I mean, that's not bad when you're putting 5-6 quarts in. Just drop it. Wouldn't necessarily have to drop the filter if it's been a short amount of hours on there, but just sitting there. You know, it's always something kind of to think about. So we'll go over there just to refresh you guys on what you do after you warm it up and get that oil kind of circulated around there. You're gonna grab most airplanes have a quick drain. That quick drain will most of them will accommodate a 3/8 inch hose. Just go down to O'Reilly's, get yourself a chunk of it. I already have a chunk, already started draining that, but that'll just slip on to the end of the quick drain, and then you just pop the quick drain up into place. We'll come over and see if I can get you know, it's nice if you don't have to decowl a whole bunch of stuff. So what I did on this Cessna, just took the easy cowl off the top and then pulled this one back a little bit, and you can see there's my hose. I'll try to get my pointer on there. There's my hose on the quick drain, and then I just clicked it up in the up position, ran it down there, and it's draining into the bucket right now. So pretty easy to do that, not a big deal on that. So next thing is, if you are going to change your filter, they always make such a mess. So what I like to do is I like to take a kitchen garbage bag. I like the ones that have the little plastic strap in there, because it gives you a little bit of substance to work with. And what I'll do is I'll get in here and I'll kind of feed it through behind the oil filter. Around the mags, I'll get it set, and then we'll get a picture in there. It's a little bit of a dance depending on your accessory case and what you have back here, but it's worth it to do it. So I'll get that strap going like this, coming over onto this is the left magneto. Got that, and excuse me, I'll set my filter right here. I'm going to just take a piece of masking tape, and I'm going to tape that you know, the plasticky, elasticy portion onto the magneto. Then if you look, I've worked that strap around on that side of you see how there's a adapter plate that your oil filter screws into. And so I'll get that elasticy portion and I'll pull up on it and get behind that adapter plate. Then I'll go over to the right mag here and tape that down, and then just leave the front of the bag just hanging there. So if you can see, I'll try to get a shot in there. The worst case is just making sure you get your hand and get that plastic kind of tied up tight. If you look at back there, see it's behind the filter, and right back there, that's behind the filter on both sides. So now when I crack the filter, it's just going to drain into the bag and hopefully catch all of it. And then we'll do that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire cutter, come in there and cut our safety wire off. You'll see, just figure out where it's attached if you haven't done it before. Usually there's a piece that's attached to the adapter up by the oil temperature sender. That's basically right, you see right in that area, there's that little loop there. Or if that loop has been broken off, you can bring it right around the temperature sender. That's the coppery looking thing, brassy looking thing around there. Anything you want to, anything you can grab onto that won't hurt it, that you can keep that filter from spinning just in case. And then what I like to do is I like to cut the rest of the wire off back here, because that tends to just spin around and poke a hole in your bag. So I just cut that short right there. Grab that, throw that in the garbage. And then the nut on the back of the filter is a 1-inch. You can get, I have this. This is a torquing 1-inch and ratchety thing. You can get those at Aircraft Tool Supply, a lot of the different shops there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get that on there, and we're going to just break that loose. A little bit more difficult with the short handle on this one. So sometimes you can grab a bigger. I'm going to come over on this side, Pete. I can get a better leverage. If you can't get it cracked with this guy, then you can then you just use a bigger wrench. But we'll get this here. It shouldn't be that tight. I don't know. Somebody must have tightened this one up pretty good. There we go. I'll get that one. You can get better leverage with the longer handle. These new seals they put on these Tempest filters don't get lubricated, and they're really sticky. Notice the old ones, the old style ones were, you do like just a car filter. They'd say on there, add a little engine oil to it, or DC4, the dielectric grease. And now, if you read them, see if we can get a picture of that feed on this here. The instructions on the installation. You can get that. Okay, now, number 1, install clean and dry. Do not use lubricant or DC4 compound on filter and engine mounting pad. And then tighten by hand, then apply 16 to 18 foot-pounds of torque. Safety wire, run engine check for leaks. So that's interesting. I don't know what's different about this, but I had noticed they're pretty gummy when it comes to taking them off now. So we get that spun off like this, and then that oil should be collecting in our bag. And what I like to do then is have a rag in your hand, which I forgot, but we're going to sneak this out here like that. Grab a rag real quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our bucket. And you can just grab, usually I have a piece of just a thin safety wire stuck on there. And we can set that in the handle of the bucket, wrap it around, and now that'll be also draining into there for a later metal check. And on that, if you don't have, they're relatively inexpensive, but you can get a filter cutter, and it cuts the can open. Otherwise, you can just put it in the bag, go to your mechanic and say, hey, will you cut this open, and we can take a look at it. It's always good to look at the filter in the media and see what's going on. And then if you fly a lot, every so often, I would say, you're doing maybe a 50-hour oil change. In this case, what we're talking about today is we probably are just getting fresh oil in for the spring. So we might not even do the filter. This case, this one's 50 hours. I'm going to change the filter. But the other thing is, if you fly a lot, I have some customers that, they fly a couple, 200-300 hours a year. And if they're doing their old oil changes, they're looking at the filter. But also what's a good thing is sometimes, especially on the Lycomings, on some Continentals, depending, we have a oil suction screen on. And those are generally, and let me see if I can get that's not a bad idea to take those and look at them maybe every 100 hours. Just see. What those are is a very large screen, media-wise. I mean, it's not real fine as the elements of the filter. And I'm going to see if we can get a picture here. I might be able to get it. Pete, come over here. I'm going to see if I can point to it. A little harder to get to. You might have to pull off your bottom cowling on that one in order to get to it. But if you look on the, look down here at the engine, I'll try to point to it right there. It's on the back side of the sump, and you'll see it safety wired. Is that showing up in there, Pete? Can you get it from that angle? See my point? No, you can't get your camera in there, can you? Yeah. Oh, almost. Let's see. There it is. Yes, you got it right there. See my pointer right there? So that's safety wired there. Kind of tricky to get to with the bottom cowling on there. And then the best way on that one is take yourself, you know, because that'll make a mess when you pull that one out also. What I do is I'll take a, got your oil box. I'll grab a flap of my oil box on that one. I'll cut one of the flaps off like this. And then just bend it into a trough and get it wedged up in there, and then put your oil bucket underneath. What's nice about that, you can get a trough and you can get a little bend going to it. Just kind of wedge it up there, so when you pull that out, all the oil that drains, because that's the lowest, that is the lowest area of the engine sump on most engines, and usually it's sitting back there, so you will get some residual oil, even if you've done drained, have been the oil drain valve on the bottom is done flowing oil. So you'll get some out of there, and then you just pull that screen out. You'll need a crush gasket with it, and there, depending on which model you have, you can just Dr. Mechanic, you know, they're just a standard copper crush gasket to replace. Should, you know, not a bad idea to have a stock of those. Yeah, put it back in there, torque her back down, and then safety wire it. And then that way you can look at that screen and get some bigger things that come through, carbon, different things like that. You gotta remember, you want that to be free, because where that screen comes from the bottom of the sump, it goes up underneath the accessory case. Let me see if I can show you this on the back here. So you see where everything is in the back, where the magnetos and the vacuum pump and the oil filter adapter, that's that separate accessory case. If you come down here, the sump comes out just a little bit further, and that's probably about 4 or 5 inches there. Well, if you look at that sump right there, and that screen goes up into a little port, and then it goes up into the back of, you know, it's 2 gaskets they made up, and it sucks it up into the oil filter adapter area and the oil pump right there. So that's where the oil comes from, and then it distributes, and then it goes back down in the sump. So that's kind of your flow. And so that's important. If by some chance that got plugged, you would have oil starvation. And I know one time my old boss, Robin Erickson, which some of you guys know, he was flying one of their Seminoles, and he was doing a maintenance flight on it. He was over Lake Minnetonka, and his engine seized up. And they found out that back in the day, Phillips was putting a little plastic seal in the top of their cap. Right in the top. Now you notice that if you look at most oil companies now, they do leak. There isn't anything in there to really seal. It's just the plastic itself. It was like a little foamy fiber thing, which you might see on some automotive. Well, what was happening is those might have been sticking a little bit, sticking to the edge of that. And guys poured in there, and it turned out that he found a whole bunch of them that got ingested down in when they were putting oil in. People would put oil in, and yeah, they pulled the engine apart. You know, luckily he had a twin, but you know, he was able to get back. But he said, boy, after that, everybody was stalking that the oil manufacturers really being careful that you didn't drop anything, and they didn't realize that that would fall off when you put the stem in. There was something on there that would fall off into, I don't know, maybe it was this plastic ring here. I don't know what it was that's now attached to the cap. But people would stick their bottle top in, pull it out, and they wouldn't notice it was missing, and they deposited a piece of plastic. He got enough in that point that oil suction screen couldn't flow the oil up to the oil pump. So that's why we do like checking those every so often. You know, not easy to get to, but it's always good to do that. So that's where we're at right now. We're draining. We got the filter off. At some point when that gets drained off, we'll cut the filter. So right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a look at our filter in there again. We're going to do it clean, dry threads. So pull a little rubber cap off they have. Check the inside of the threads. Then what I do, since we've had this drained, I just like going in there and just wiping the adapter plate down. And until it's, because we're not lubricating the threads, we don't want to leave oil on that adapter. And then I'll bring this back in here again, drop it in this way. What's a good thing to do is once you get this with that bag in there, I just snug up the filter so it's not going to leak, and then I pull the bag just in case. You don't want to torque it in there and then find out that you torqued in on the that part of the bag got torqued into the adapter, because that's going to leak and not be good. So pull that out there, pull this here, and this is the part where you got to be a little careful pulling this back out, because you want to make sure you've encapsulated that oil and not made a mess. So with that up there, I'm gonna finger tighten that. Then I'm going to come back over to that side because it's going to be easier to torque. This with the set fire oil bucket, recycle that. So in this case, I got a calibrated torque wrench here that I can use to tighten this. If not, just get yourself a short socket and your torque wrench, and bring it down there. And what's nice, I have mine set at kind of the middle value. And the reason I do that is, I'll show you when I go to safety this. Okay, there we got it. And I'm in a middle value, so I'm over the bottom number and I'm under the top number. Okay, you got yourself about two on the step there. Now, grab our safety wire, and bear with me, it's not the easiest one, the safety wire, so you just got to figure out how you're gonna sneak in there with all the wires and everything, and so we're gonna sneak through that hole. And I'll tell you, every year I get older, it's harder to see what I'm doing in there, because you know what? Here's what I'm gonna show you the other way, because I'm not gonna fight with that hole in that wire right now. I'm gonna show you. Fold your wire in half. This also works really well, and it's sometimes much easier to use this instead of that little tang. So we're gonna poke our wire in. This, get over that. Now get this. As you see, it's just a dance of getting your fingers in there, and I got big nets. So, all right. So I got that over there. That, and we're gonna pull that wire around, get our ends clear, like that. Clear here. Okay, it's nice. Yeah, I got it around there. Even these out a little bit. That's where this gets a little bit tricky. Is now I want to find my measurement of where I'm gonna bring my safety wire pliers. So here's my tang right there. I'm gonna go there, just a little short of it. Okay, pinch my fingers there. I'm gonna get my safety wire pliers on it. Just see how tight it is. It's kind of fun. You're probably not going to use your spinning capability of your safety wire pliers just because it's kind of hard to get in there. So what you can do is just get in there, grab the ends like that, and it's just you fight with it a little bit. And now I'm going to just twist it until I get it up around here and tight enough. And if you guys know, you can always look this stuff up, AC 4313, or you can just memorize it. What we're looking for on safety wires, you don't want it super tight, right? What do you think? It's about 8 twists per inch is what we're looking for. So I kind of look at that, and of course you can just, I look at it and go, okay, that's about an inch. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks pretty close to about that right there. Now I'm gonna take that off, take pliers off. And you can sometimes, if you can't get your hand in there, you can utilize some longer needle nose pliers. But luckily, these wires are pretty stiff, so I make myself a little hook in the end that I can get into that little hole on the filter adapter or the filter. And so we're gonna go in there, and there again, it's that older eyes don't work so good. So I got that poked through. And what we're gonna do is grab our safety wire pliers again, grab the end of it, and we're gonna start feeding that through, snugging it up like that. Okay, and then what I'll do is it's sometimes easier to go to the other side and tighten it. So I'm gonna go over the other side and do my twisting. And then I'll show you if by chance you had a little bit of slack in there and you don't want that wire dancing around too much, because you've torqued it within specs, you can just give it a little back off, and that will tighten up the wire on the case. Right, that's pretty good right there. What we're gonna do is we're gonna this, and then cut it, and then we're gonna curl it curled around so we don't snag ourselves on it, like that. Bring that around so we don't snag it, and then we look at it. That looks pretty tight anyways, but if we wanted to give it a little snug, we could just go direction, sorry. Just go back like that. Now I check the tightness, and then that won't be shattering around on the filter at all. So you notice when I did that, I still got a click on it because I'm within the range there again. So there we are in our filter wire. There, we just went around that. That's a lot easier a lot of times to do it that way. You can see that. Yeah. If I had grab the flashlight, get a little light back there. All right, you can see. So we just went around that part of there. We got about 8 twists per inch. So, all right, so we're good on that. So we're finished letting this drain. We're going to shut that petcock. We're going to, fill up the oil. So, all right, now what's our next thing we're going to do? Thinking about getting back to winter, from winter flying. Main thing I think of is if we haven't been flying much, we're kind of concerned about the oil. We want to look at our tires, make sure we fill them up. And also the thing is, I don't know what you've done. Some guys will actually remove their battery and bring it home, or if they have a warmer office in their hangar, if they don't have a heated hangar, they'll bring them home with them. and then they'll bring them out and have them on the charger every so often, a trickle charger. That's probably your most optimal. Where we have customers here that they have us kind of winterize their airplanes. We pull their batteries and keep them in the shop here, and then every so often we'll throw the charger on them. And they're in a nice, stable, warm environment versus getting frozen. Big thing on batteries, even though this is a sealed one, it still has electrolyte in it. It's impregnated. It's more of a thicker electrolyte that's in these fiberglassy type of glass mats in there versus a flooded cell. And you've got to look down into the bottom of a flooded cell. Let's see if I can get in here, see if we can see inside there. On a flooded cell, as you see, well, maybe you can't see in there. You see the all the plates of lead and different plates that go in there, which do the sulfication of the electrolyte back and forth. And you need to have water in there. I mean, fluid, electrolyte. Well, as you know, a good chunk of electrolyte is going to be distilled water. Now it does have a specific gravity. It is an acid, but what happens is, if you look at how the charging system works, those plates start absorbing and giving off those electrons and the ions. So what happens is, if you were to measure, remember we used to have those measuring bulbs that the balls would float? You can see that the specific gravity of the fluid loses it because it's trapped inside the actual cells. And what happens is it will freeze because it's become less acidic, less stuff in there. It's like the salt water in the freezer versus not salt water in the freezer. Salt water takes longer to freeze. I also like the thing is, look at vodka. Vodka doesn't freeze it's kind of thick in the refrigerator freezer, but a lot of people put it in there for a nice cool aperitif. It's kind of cool. So, but the idea is, when these things go flat, they tend to freeze, and you'll see, somebody comes in, I don't know, I tried to put a charge on my battery and I come back and it's all blown up. Well, it blew up because as it froze, as we know, the density of water and ice, it expands when it turns into ice, and the ice, that's why ice floats. And it's less dense than it was at 4 degrees, 4 degrees, 4 degrees centigrade. So it blows up the battery and it moves the plates around and it just loses its capacity. So that's why, we don't want them freezing. They shouldn't freeze if they have a charge on them. So people put trickle charges on there. That's a good way to do it. But the other thing is, if you don't fly much, pull it out and then keep it in a warm spot. So what you're going to do is, you don't want to start a flat battery. I mean, a lot of times people go and they get out there for the first time they've flown in the spring. It's like, oh man, I can't get her to turn over. Oh, I got one of those charging ports on the other side here. Or ground power. Why don't I just ground power it? Well, that's great. You're gonna get the starter, you're gonna get the engine. It doesn't need the battery, but then you're charging that battery that is way low at whatever the output of is your alternator, 50, 60 amps. And you think about that, you maybe have now this aviation's battery charger doesn't go that high. If you look at the automotive ones, they have that start mode, 125 amps, 60 amps. And if you were to put a battery on there, you see them start to cook and they start bubbling, and it's really, 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 really hard on them to do that. That's not the best thing for a battery. If you look at aviation batteries, 4 amps is the largest they allowed us to charge that. That's pretty slow. And they'll even say, depending on the capacity of battery, set this down at a lower rate. You're not, aviation batteries, you can't just crank a bunch of juice into them and expect them to last very long. And they're expensive. So I always say, just treat your battery the best you can and kind of baby it. It's not an automotive battery. It definitely isn't. So So that's the one thing, and then, if your electrolyte looks low in here, then you can just take some distilled water, put it in a small cup, and just fill it up to the bottom. Usually there's a bottom collar in there that most battery companies, you want to have a little bit of room for expansion, because as you fill it up, and as it charges, the fluid expands just a little bit. You don't want to be bubbling it out the top and making a mess of acid all over the back of your battery box. So that's talking about batteries. The other thing is, let's just take a look at things that we can do. Just kind of do a good pre-flight. Let's start looking at stuff. Probably, if you have chips or broken things, maybe it's still too cold in your hangar, but at least make a note of it as you're starting to get this back into working order if you haven't been flying much in the winter. I always look at it's a good time to, remember last time I flew, I got the wrong size cam lock in my cowl, Well, maybe it's time to, it's not a big deal, but it kind of looks dumb. It might stick out a little bit further. So you look at the top of the cam lock and it says a number on there. And usually the larger the number, if it's a 180 or if it's a 3456, the higher the number, the longer the stem is. So, go to Aircraft Spruce or somewhere, and if you don't have some of the tools to take care of your airplane, it might be time to get a few of them. My box is a mess. I'm looking for my cam pliers. But anyways, they make cam lock pliers, different things. Here's a cam lock pliers. So that'll just help you. You think, oh, all right, this one doesn't, have to kind of sneak them out. This one is a little bit too long. Oh boy, that's a 7. I'm gonna go try a 6 in there. So it fits better. Just make your plane look a little bit better. But a lot of times when you're flying a lot, you forget about it. But this is time when you kind of get a chance to get things exactly the way you want it. So then you kind of look everything over. I always look interior wise also around the engine for, if you're paying, if you've had mice or any problems there. If you fly FR, you need static wicks. Take a look at the condition of your static wicks. If you see one broken off, then maybe it's time to replace it. So just kind of go around everywhere. You can lubricate your controls. Now look at here. Here I'm missing the whippy part of the static, so that's something that I'll take care of now. Just looking at all the condition of things and just doing a really good pre-flight. And any of the plastic parts that might have had a crack from last year, you're not ready to replace them, and always just take a little 40 size drill bit, small drill bit, and just where the crack is, go to the end of the crack and just drill stop that. If you have touch-up paint, as it starts to get a little bit warmer, you say, hey, I got a few chips that are there. Clean them off and touch them up so you don't have bare metal or you start getting corrosion. All things you can do, and you can look at the list. Remember, the list is on there. It's in the 43, and it talks about preventative maintenance. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can replace fasteners. You can fix your wiring on simple circuits, such like a landing light. So there's a lot of stuff. If you feel comfortable with working on it, just look at the list and see what you can do. And if you don't feel comfortable, go talk to your mechanic about it. And a lot of times we'll just help you through it the first time, so you feel comfortable on it. The other thing is right now, I'll tell you, the most important thing is, even if they look good, check your tire pressures. Definitely check them. We're at the school here. We get a lot of flats, and usually what happens is I have a thing that everybody's supposed to pre-flight the planes and check tire pressures all the time, and you kind of have them at a range where they can be at. And this time of year, I suppose it's a little soggier out there on the field. People don't like getting down and taking a look at them. And all of a sudden, we have a flat. It turned. These are relatively low pressure tires, and so that inner tube there just gets chafing back and forth until finally it just wears a little pinhole inside there, and then they go flat. and then we got to go find a cart and go bring it back, and it's it's a pain. But if we keep proper pressure in tires, they don't go flat. You don't lose those tubes very readily. And it's so important because, I mean, and the other thing to think about too is, if you had a low tire and you decided, I'm going to do a landing over at Cambridge or somewhere, and there's no services on the field there, and you get a flat. It's like, oh, now what? What now do you do? It makes your day kind of a bad day. So that's the other thing I always think about, especially this time of year where it's not super comfortable to be hanging out, wait for somebody to see if he can help you, and it's a weekend. Plan your stops at maybe where they have some FBO services on the field where they can help you out. Just because, boy, I tell you, get a flat tire, now you're stuck there, and they don't have a good building to warm up. Then you're making the calls, and it's not going to be fun. So anyway, so just take a look, condition your tires, check your tire pressures, just make sure they're good. On the backside, you'll be able to see your brakes, make sure the brakes aren't leaking. You can see your brake pads in there, making sure they're looking good. These look good in here. If you can hopefully you can see them. I don't know, I need my flashlight again, Peter, is it? But you look at all your fittings, make sure the lines are intact. You don't have any fluid. You can see on the bottom of your hanger if you see any dripping fluid. That's the time to address it a little bit. Look at if you have oleo struts, a Piper or a Bonanza that has oleo struts. Take a look around. It could be the brakes, or it could be your oleo strut leaking a little bit, and especially if it's a little bit lower. And that's that's kind of the things. Just really good pre-flights. Think things through. Now, next thing I want to talk about is this is a weird time of the year as far as weather, isn't it? This morning it was 1 below. Later today it's going to be 27 degrees. Tomorrow it's going to be closer to 40, I believe, and then this week we got some 50s. Well, most engine and airframe manufacturers, like for this Cessna here, we have winterization plates that go on the front. Those are good up to 20 degrees, then you have to take them off, otherwise it gets too warm. If you have the winterization plate like on a Warrior or a Cherokee of some sort, usually those are allowed up to 50 degrees, and they usually have some blockage over an oil cooler. So be prepared that you might be flying and all of a sudden you're getting kind of warm, and especially if you go on a little trip somewhere and you go further south, you might need to have your screwdriver or the hardware removing tools to actually take that off. Some people it's just it's tape. You can pull some tape off. For me, it's I just need a long Phillips screwdriver to take mine off, because all of a sudden you'll notice, boy, I'm flying along, and you get into weather above 50, and that oil is starting to get hot. And hot oil, it's just hard on the engine. It's hard in the oil. It breaks the oil down. If you look at most oil temperature gauges, they're going to redline right around 240 degrees. That's really hot. That's really hot. It's hard on the engine. So we want to keep that magical number right around 180 to 200. Don't like to see oil temperatures consistently over 200, and we don't like to see them consistently below 180, because you start getting into 150s, 140s, 120s, and you're not getting the water and the moisture out of the oil. The engine oil isn't able to do its job as well, but you're trapping in. Your oil is scavenging all the impurities from combustion, and water's being one of them in there. A byproduct of combustion, and moisture. And really the magic number is, you want to see that. I like seeing things, as close to 180 consistently as we can. Obviously on a hot summer day it's going to get a little bit warmer than that, but we don't want it boiling either. So, and the pilot's kind of in charge of that. You have to kind of see what it takes on a hot day. If you're doing some slow maneuvers, you might have to get that nose down and reduce your climb up and get a little more air over the oil cooler. And then in the winter, sometimes you might have to run a little bit harder. You just really, I know you're saving fuel and that's getting expensive now, but if you're not getting those temperatures up, it's not really that. You really want to get those oil temperatures up. And so if you're flying too slow or have the power setting too low and that engine's cooling off, not really good for it in the cross country. Want to get those oil temperatures and get them kind of to stabilize out at a close to a 180. Close to 180 would be the so that's something to think about there. And there's different people have different, and manufacturers have different techniques for blocking the oil passages off or closing air things off in the front. So just look at what the manufacturer of your airplane and what they suggest, or if there's any modifications. Some people, there's some modifications. I know one of my friends has a Husky, and the Husky guys came out with some other things for winter operations and keep things warmer and stuff, and also cool in the summer. So just keep up on that. There's a lot of clubs and a lot of blogging online, which is helpful. Some of it's just a bunch of this, but there's some good stuff out there too. So Pete, how are we doing on time?
It's 1:45.
All right, that's perfect. Well, it's time now that if you guys have any questions on anything, want to know anything else, or you get it, try to pick my brain, which you can, let's go to a question and answer time and go from there. If anybody has any questions.
Hey, Paul, this is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Thanks for holding this on a really cold day when we didn't have anything else to do but sit and watch you do that. That's
yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yep.
Too cold to be in the hangar. Hey, when you safety wired the oil filter.
Yes.
When I got my Aztec, the oil filters were safety wired to one of the a part of the engine mount tubing.
I don't like that, because think about this, Mike.
Yeah.
First of all, I don't like putting anything around the tubing without protecting it.
Yep.
The other thing is your engine is on a shock mount, and that engine moves back and forth.
Yep.
So think about it as a different torque settings on there. So when you do it, make sure it's safety wired to the engine itself. You never want things. It's also like anything somewhat solid on there, you got to leave some room for flex and movement, because if you watch these engines, they're dancing all over the place. Well, so if you're tight to the engine mount, that's not good.
I should have added, this is an add-on, Airwolf add-on. It's mounted on the firewall, so the filter's not moving, but still the idea of safety wire scuffing on the engine mount tubing just troubled me. So I thought,
right. So this is an add-on. It's on the firewall. Then you could go to something on the firewall. Is there any other provision on that adapter? There usually is something that would work better than going to the tubing. I just don't like. I mean, we'll put ADEL clamps, which are nicely cushioned. But I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of. It doesn't seem like much, but I've seen safety wire and things that you wouldn't think chafe through that chromoly tubing, and actually put some good nicks in chromoly tubing. Everything that can move and saw a little bit, it eventually will degrade it, and that gets expensive. Plus, not so good at. We've had to take engine mounts off because of that for customers and send them in and get them overhauled.
That's a real bother too. Let me tell you.
Well, it is. It's a real bother. And you look at it, but you see this gouge, and you just don't know. It's so hard to tell without getting it inspected by somebody. They give you so much of a nick, but you don't really know what the tubing size is. So, that's usually not publicized for the mechanic. What size tubing did they use on there? We don't know, And so that's the problem. I mean, we have to look at that and make that judgment call. Boy, that looks awfully deep. And when it looks that deep, it usually is. The tubing wall thickness isn't that much. And there's a parameter that we have to take a look at, how much percentage of the tubing material has been compromised. So
I thought maybe some other guys had run into the same kind of scenario, so I just bring it up so we could.
I don't know. My Aztec has the filter actually on the engine, so there again, I just go right around that oil temperature probe.
Oh, that's the easy one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy to do that way, but
Yeah,
this one, you
easy to
put
do. I
the,
like that. Matter of fact, I
mount
like you said, I didn't want to even fight getting that wire through there today. It was there. Somebody had it, but it's like, my eyes are too.
sure.
Yeah, it's easier just going around there, and that does the adequate job, perfect job up there. And you can get a little bit of room to play with it and move it around and stuff. So yeah, but yeah, I would try to avoid a tubular structure of your motor mount. You can.
Good advice. Thanks.
And if you do have to, Mike, slide a piece of tubing over it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought about doing, was putting
Yeah.
some of the tape around, putting an Adele clamp on there and winding.
Adele clamp, you could go to the Adele clamp, Mike.
Yeah.
So say you put an Adele clamp, now you can go and bring your wire to the Adele clamp over to the
Yes.
filter. That would be a safe thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll use the cushioned Adele clamp. I won't use the bare metal one. So
Don't use the bare metal. Use the cushion. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then that can be your device. That can be your device that you loop through to the wire through. So
there you
Yep.
go.
Yep.
Good deal. It's good seeing you again. You look like you're doing well. Glad to
Yeah,
see you're back
doing
up
well.
and at 'em.
Doing well. I got my best buddy here working with me at he's a CSR at Thunderbird here, and he likes flying, so it's kind of nice.
Yep. Pretty sweet.
Life is good. Anybody else have any questions? Anybody else on? Well, thanks for coming out, guys. It's a beautiful day. It's gonna start warming up, and let's get flying. Let's get flying.
deal. Thanks,
All
Paul.
right, sounds good. Yep, thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
Yep.